There is a silent moment in life when nothing seems to make sense. And that is frightening. You look around and realize that what once fulfilled you now feels empty. People, paths, plans, everything begins to lose its color. And in the middle of this, a thought arises that is hard to ignore. I am lost. But there is a truth that almost no one explains to you clearly. There is a type of loneliness that is not abandonment. There is a type of confusion that is not failure. There is a type of emptiness that is not lack. It is transition. Many who carry a deeper spiritual sensitivity, those who were set apart, go exactly through this point. A point where God silences the outside so that something more true can begin to be heard within. And what if what you are calling loss is actually a level shift? If this already touched something in you, stay until the end, because what you are living has more meaning than it seems right now. The discomfort is not loss, it is a sign of progress. What you are feeling did not arise by chance. This discomfort that feels like confusion is actually displacement. Something inside you has already left the old place, even if your life has not yet followed this outwardly. And that is why everything starts to feel strange. What once was normal now feels heavy. Conversations that once flowed now exhaust you. Environments that once felt safe now generate a discomfort that is hard to explain. This is not a loss of direction. This is consciousness moving. There is a part of you that no longer accepts living in the same pattern. And when that happens, the first sign is not clarity. It is discomfort, because you are still between two spaces. The old no longer sustains who you are becoming, and the new has not yet fully revealed itself. This middle is what people call being lost. But spiritually, this space is known as preparation. In the Bible, before any elevation comes the desert, not as punishment, but as alignment, a place where excess is removed, where distractions decrease, where truth begins to appear without interference. And the desert is never comfortable. It exposes, it silences, it makes you feel things that were previously hidden, but it also organizes. The problem is that many people interpret this moment as regression. They think they are getting worse, and when in fact they are becoming more conscious. And when you try to escape this discomfort, trying to return to what was, the feeling worsens. Because it is no longer possible to fit into what has already been internally surpassed. You are not going back, you are being moved. And the more you begin to observe this consciously, the more this process stops seeming like chaos and begins to make sense. In moments like this, instead of resisting, try saying internally, I accept what is being transformed within me, even without understanding everything now. This changes your position in relation to the process. You leave confusion and enter awareness. And when this begins to happen, something even deeper reveals itself right after. You are breaking old patterns without realizing it. After the discomfort settles in, the process does not stop. It deepens, and it begins to touch something even more rooted, the patterns you have lived for so long without questioning. And this does not happen in an obvious way. It is not a conscious decision. It is not a moment when you declare change. It is something that simply begins to fail within you. Automatic thoughts no longer work the same way. Reactions that were quick now seem to stall. Old behaviors begin to generate a discomfort that did not exist before. And this is confusing, because it feels like you lost control, when in fact you left the automatic. There is now an internal division happening. One part of you still tries to repeat the old, but another part, more conscious, no longer allows it. And this conflict generates fatigue, doubt, even a sense of instability. But this is not disorganization. This is reconstruction. Every old pattern tries to survive. There is a force within the mind that seeks to maintain the familiar, even if it limits you. But your awareness has begun to see, and when you see, you can no longer ignore. You begin to notice attitudes, cycles, thoughts that previously went unnoticed. You start to identify what holds you back, what drains you, what no longer makes sense, and this, even uncomfortable, is liberating, because there is no transformation without this moment. What you do not notice when you repeat, But what you begin to see, you can choose not to feed anymore. And here is an important point that almost no one talks about. This phase is not clean. It is not light all the time. In many moments, it feels harder than before. And this happens because you are in the middle of transition. The old still tries to return. The new is still being formed. But going back is no longer possible in the same way, because now there is awareness. And it is exactly here that your strength begins to truly be built. Not in the absence of conflict, but in how you observe it. When a pattern arises, instead of judging yourself, simply recognize, this was part of me, but it no longer defines who I am. This simple movement creates space, and it is in this space that real change happens. If you are living this, you are not lost. You are in motion. And the next step of this process begins to direct everything inward, where true change is consolidated. The focus is shifting from external to internal. After patterns begin to break, something changes in an even more silent way, but deeply decisive. Your attention begins to shift. Before, much of your energy was directed outward, toward what others thought, toward validation, toward external answers, toward visible signs of progress. But now, this begins to lose strength, not because you decided to reject the world, but because something within you is no longer satisfied with superficial answers. You begin to question more than you accept. What once was enough now feels incomplete. Ready-made advice no longer fits. Common paths no longer make sense. And this can give a feeling of isolation, as if no one can truly understand what is happening inside you. But this movement is not distancing. It is alignment. There is an internal calling happening, a growing need to understand yourself, to listen to yourself, to discern what is truly yours and what was absorbed throughout life without awareness. This is where control begins to shift. Before, it was external. Now, it begins to be born within, and this requires spiritual maturity. Because living from within means taking responsibility for your own energy, your own thoughts, your own choices. You can no longer blame the environment in the same way. And at the same time, this liberates. Because when the center is within, the world around loses the same power to destabilize you. You begin to notice small signs of this in your daily life. Moments of silence become necessary, not avoided. Your intuition begins to speak louder than external opinions. You feel when something is not aligned, even if it seems right to others. This is internal refinement. And the more you respect this movement, the more clarity begins to emerge. Even if doubts still exist, there is a subtle direction being built within you. And here is something important you need to remember. If this type of message is reaching you now, it is not a coincidence. There is a reason you are hearing this at this specific moment in your life. So, if you feel you are part of this group that is awakening, that is going through this kind of silent transition, subscribe to the channel. Because here you will not find distraction. You will find direction. And that makes a difference when you are going through this type of phase. Now, as this internal focus increases, something inevitable begins to happen. Your emotions are more intense for a reason. When consciousness expands, perception also increases. And that includes what many people try to avoid. Emotions. You begin to feel more. Not because you are weaker, but because you are more present. Before, many emotions went unnoticed or were automatically ignored. You operated on autopilot without truly noticing what was happening within. Now, that no longer happens in the same way. Everything feels more intense. Sadness comes more clearly. Irritation appears more quickly. Anxiety, at times, feels stronger. And this is frightening, because it feels like you are getting worse. But the truth is different. You are not too sensitive. You are more aware of what has always been there. The emotions did not increase. Your perception of them increased, and this completely changes the meaning of the experience. Each emotion now begins to function as a signal, not as a problem to be eliminated, but as a message to be understood. Irritation can show where your boundaries are being crossed. Sadness can reveal something that still needs to be embraced. Anxiety can point to misalignments between what you live and what you feel you should live. This is internal adjustment. But for this to work, you need to change how you react to emotions. Instead of rejecting, you observe. Instead of running away, you listen, even if it is uncomfortable. Because it is in this contact that transformation happens. And there is something even deeper here. The more you avoid feeling, the more the process gets stuck. But when you allow yourself to feel with awareness, without getting lost, something begins to reorganize within you. It is as if your own energy begins to find a new balance. That is why in moments of emotional intensity, instead of trying to control everything, try something simple. Breathe and say internally, I allow myself to understand what this is trying to show me. This changes your relationship with what you feel. And little by little, what seemed like loss of control begins to reveal itself as direction. And as this happens, a new layer begins to emerge within you. Something that does not come from the past, but from what you are becoming. New desires are being activated. After you begin to feel more and perceive more, something starts to arise that may even confuse you at first. Your desires change. What once seemed important quietly loses strength. Things you wanted a lot, plans you had, paths you believed in, no longer generate the same movement within you. And this can create a feeling of emptiness, as if you lost motivation, as if nothing excites you like before. But this is not lack of direction. This is realignment. There is a big difference between conditioned desire and true desire. For a long time, many of your desires were built from what you learned, what you saw, what was expected of you. It was more external than internal. But now, something more true begins to emerge. New impulses appear. Sometimes subtly, new ideas begin to arise, even if you still do not know how to execute them. There is a different inclination, more aligned with who you are becoming. And at the same time, there is fear, because these new desires do not have the same map the old ones had. They are not fully clear. They do not come with guarantees. They come with a feeling, and trusting that requires a different kind of faith. This is where many people get stuck, because they try to rescue old desires just to feel safe again. They try to return to plans that no longer make sense, just because they were familiar. But what is being born within you now is more true, even if it is still small, even if it is not fully formed yet. This is a sign of alignment with a new level of consciousness. And the more you respect these new impulses, the stronger they become. A simple way to sustain this daily is to stop ignoring what keeps arising within you. That idea that returns, that desire that insists, that thing you feel there is something there, even without logical explanation. Instead of discarding, acknowledge it. Say internally, if this is coming to me, there is a reason. This opens space, and what once seemed confusing begins to take shape over time. And as these new desires begin to organize, something naturally changes in how you act. Action begins to change naturally. When there is internal alignment, action stops being forced. And this is one of the clearest, even if subtle, changes that happen in this process. Before, there was a lot of effort. You tried to fit in, tried to maintain rhythms that were not sustainable, tried to follow paths that required constant pushing of reality. Now, that begins to lose meaning. You can no longer force what is not aligned. And this may seem at first like lack of productivity, as if you are doing less, as if you are more still. But in reality, you are moving differently. Action begins to arise with more precision. You start to see which steps truly make sense and which are just repetition of an old pattern. Small decisions begin to have more impact than large disorganized efforts. There is less exhaustion and more direction, and this completely changes the experience. Because you are no longer trying to build from pressure, you are responding from clarity. Even if that clarity is still partial, and this requires trust, because acting without that old impulse of urgency can feel like slowness. It may seem like you are behind, but you are not. You are refining. There is a time when consciousness organizes the internal before the external begins to reflect it visibly. And it is exactly here that many give up, because they do not see immediate results. And they end up returning to forced effort, trying to accelerate something that needs alignment, not pressure. But if you remain, something begins to click, the steps become more natural, decisions more firm, movement lighter, and you realize it is not about doing more. It is about doing from the right place. If what you are hearing makes sense to you, if you recognize this kind of change happening in your life, share this video with someone who is also going through this moment and still has not understood. Because many people feel lost, when in fact they are in the middle of a deep alignment process. And when you begin to understand this, you not only help yourself, you help others not to give up in the middle of the path. And as this action adjusts, there comes a point that needs to be understood with maturity, because not everything changes at the same time. There is a time of adjustment between internal and external. After your action begins to change, a point arises that deeply tests your faith and understanding. Not everything changes outside you at the same time it changes within, and this is one of the most delicate moments of the journey, because internally, you already realize you are not the same. Your way of thinking has changed. Your emotions are clearer, your desires are more aligned. But when you look at your reality, many things still seem the same, and this can generate frustration, the feeling of doing everything right, but not seeing results. But there is a silent law operating here. First, consciousness changes, then reality follows. What happens within you reorganizes what is outside. But there is an interval between these two movements, and this interval is not a mistake. It is an adjustment. It is as if your new frequency is still stabilizing before fully manifesting in the physical world. And if you try to force this process, if you try to accelerate through control, you create resistance. And that is exactly what delays many people. Because by not seeing immediate external change, the person doubts. And by doubting, they break the alignment that was beginning to form. That is why this moment requires something deeper than action. It requires sustained trust, even without external proof. This is where you need to develop a different posture. Instead of looking outward for confirmation, you begin to ask yourself, do I remain aligned with what changed within me? If the answer is yes, then you remain, even without evidence. This strengthens your internal stability. And over time, what has already changed within begins to reflect outward, naturally, without forcing. Nothing that is real is lost in this process, but what is rushed becomes disorganized. And when you understand this, you stop fighting time and begin to walk with it. And it is exactly here that the next level opens. You need to learn to receive, not just seek. There is a point in the journey where effort stops being the main key, and this breaks a belief that many people carry for years. The idea that everything depends only on doing, running, seeking, insisting. But when consciousness changes, the logic also changes. You realize that not everything comes from direct movement. Some things come from openness. And this is difficult at first, because you were trained to act all the time, to control, to anticipate, to guarantee. And when you try to apply that same force at a new level, something blocks. Not because you are doing too little, but because you are doing too much in the wrong direction. Excessive control blocks. It closes the space where the new could enter. Receiving requires a type of posture that is not passive, but also not forced. It is a relaxed attention. It is doing what needs to be done, but without the tension of needing to control the outcome all the time. And this completely changes your relationship with reality. You begin to notice opportunities that previously went unnoticed. Connections begin to arise more naturally. Ideas appear at the right time. Not because you chased all of this, but because you were available. And this requires trust. Trust that not everything depends on your direct force. Trust that there is a greater intelligence organizing paths when you are aligned. A simple practice that can help you here is, in moments of tension, pause and adjust internally. I do not need to control everything. I can allow what is mine to find its way to me. This does not make you passive. This makes you aligned. And when you enter this state, flow begins to happen more lightly. But there is one last point that defines whether all of this truly sustains or not. The real challenge is sustaining the new level. Many people can access a new level of consciousness, but few can remain in it. And this is the difference between those who only experience moments of clarity and those who truly transform their reality. Because accessing is a moment, sustaining is a process. After you understand, after you feel, after you align, life continues. And with it, old patterns still try to return. Old thoughts reappear. Old reactions try to impose themselves. Situations arise testing whether you really changed or if you just had a moment of lucidity. And this is where consistency becomes essential. Not as heavy effort, but as daily choice. Small adjustments, small decisions, small returns to alignment. That is what builds stability. It is not about never making mistakes again. It is about noticing faster and returning more consciously. And the more you do this, the more natural this new level becomes. Until there comes a point where what was once difficult becomes who you are. And at that moment, your external reality begins to reflect this more clearly. Connections change. Opportunities change. The way you live changes. Not because something magical happened from outside in, but because you sustain the change from inside out. And if you made it this far, there is something that needs to be very clear within you. You are not lost, you are in transition. And few people have the courage to go through this process consciously. If this content spoke to you on a deeper level, write here in the comments. I am in transition. This is not just interaction, it is positioning. It is you recognizing before yourself that you are at a new level, even if you are still learning to sustain it. And when you do this, something within you strengthens, because you stop seeing yourself as someone lost and begin to see yourself as someone in transformation. And if you made it this far, there is something that needs to be clear within you. You are not lost. You are going through a level that requires more awareness, more presence, and more truth than before. And not everyone gets here. Many give up when discomfort begins. Many go back when patterns break. Many get lost when the external does not follow the internal. But you stayed. And that says a lot about who you are becoming. This process did not come to confuse you. It came to align you. And even if there are still doubts, there is something within you that already knows that you cannot go back to who you were. Now it is about continuing. With more awareness, with more presence, with more responsibility for who you choose to be from here on. If this made sense to you, write here in the comments. I am in transition. It is not just a comment. It is an internal recognition. And when you recognize, you strengthen. And if you want to continue understanding these processes more deeply, stay here. Because this kind of awareness is not common, but it is not solitary either.